Welcome back to another episode of Lit Sports Online. We are reviewing UFC 236 Holloway versus Poirier. Let's get down to it. So first up, OSP versus Nikita Krylov. Bro, thoughts?
It was kind of one-sided.
Yeah.
A lot more so
definitely
than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, so it's funny, like right out the gates, like virtually every match except for Adesanya, I called very incorrectly. Like horribly fucking wrong.
Well, it's easy to do. Especially in a scenario like this where both good strikers, both good ground game, and OSP's a guy that has had success against the top of the division, earned himself an interim title shot against John Jones. So you expect OSP to perform well, but not so in this case. And Krylov got a very good win and a round 2 submission, and it's onwards and upwards from here, and we'll see what happens with OSP. He's not been doing so hot. I think based on name value, he'll at least get another one.
Yeah,
but might be on his way out. I don't know.
Yeah, the way it looked, I definitely think you're right. But yeah, still a good match. I mean, Krylov came out, definitely worked it. I was impressed by him. I mean, overall, this card really got me back into it personally. Yeah. Like, just into fighting again like I was when I was a little bit younger. But still a good match. I mean, I definitely wanted OSP to win. I definitely was like, oh, yeah, he's going to win. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
But moving on, Alan Juban versus Dwight Grant in a very interesting decision.
Yeah, Juban was not happy with the decision.
Not at all.
But from what I saw, it was the right decision. I thought that Juban was very kind of tentative and hesitant in his approach. I thought he was too fearful of the power of Dwight Grant. Yeah. And so his striking game was very muted. He wasn't very busy. He didn't land a lot, and so I thought Dwight Grant was more aggressive, had more octagon control, and had a little bit more success just because he was throwing more. Not that his percentage was better or whatever, but he was the one trying to make things happen, whereas Juban was just trying to avoid things happening to him.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I mean, like, saying that now, after watching, I watched the fight live, watching some of the highlights, it made sense. Okay, this was the correct decision. Because at that time I was like, wait, how the fuck did he lose? Like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
But, when you really go back, look at it, and, after some of the conversation we had, like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So next up, Eric Anders versus Khalil Rountree. Holy shit, Eric Anders got worked.
Yes.
Holy crap, dude.
It was an incredible performance by Rountree, who has spent a good amount of time recently training in Thailand.
Yeah.
He's been training like real old school traditional Muay Thai. And that's how he came out in this fight, and which is a stance we hadn't seen him in before. So he had a really high guard, typical Muay Thai, like elbows high, fists high, guarding the chin, chin down, head down, and light on the front foot. Yeah. And they do that because they like to throw a lot of really quick kicks, a lot of really quick body kicks, check kicks, push kicks, and that's exactly what he did. Yeah. He had a crazy leg kick game in this fight. Just brutalized Anders' leg.
Yeah.
Completely outclassed him. First round, dropped him. Or no, not in the first round he didn't drop him, but in the first round he completely messed up his leg. Second round he came out, and he actually came out with a different stance. He came out in more of a stance that we've seen him before, where his weight was more evenly distributed against his between his legs, and he had his a little more hunched over, kind of a boxing stance. And he started pushing forward and looking for power strikes. Landed a huge straight left, I think.
Yeah.
And dropped Anders in the second round. And was just brutal, man. There was the commentating team on the fight was saying that it would be just for Anders' team to just throw in the towel between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
They didn't do it. It went to the decision, but the entire fight was incredibly one-sided, and it was
ugly.
It was just as one-sided as you can see a fight like that.
Yeah.
And Rountree looked phenomenal. Like,
yeah, it was so fluid. Like, it was just like, man, he did not miss a step the whole fight.
No, his kicks were incredibly fast. They were not telegraphed at all. Mm-hmm. He landed kicks in every way you can land them. You know, calf kicks, thigh kicks, body kicks, head kicks. And then he would switch it up and then all of a sudden start throwing big shots and really sit down on his punches and land down the pipe on Anders, who was...
Yeah.
Everything that Rountree did was just so well executed and so well kind of mixed in that Anders just didn't really know what to expect. He didn't know how to counter because you weren't really able to see exactly what Rountree was going to do. He was just... Yeah. It was a phenomenal performance, and I think this will put him straight towards the top. I think they're going to give him a big name guy next. And, you know, if he has a good performance against a big name guy at the top of the division, then I would not doubt that we see him in a title shot pretty soon, because the light heavyweight division is not incredibly deep.
Yeah.
We're seeing kind of newcomers to the division who win their first 2 or 3 fights and get title shots, and Anthony Smith and Thiago Silva. And so Rountree putting on a performance like this, if he beats somebody at the top, then he's into a title shot pretty soon. And if he keeps this kind of momentum going and improves his striking game by this much leaps and bounds every time, then you never know what's going to happen.
Anything can happen. Next up, the co-main event match I was looking forward to most.
Yeah.
Interim middleweight title fight. Kelvin Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya. Wow. What a match. Full 5 rounds. Wow.
I think so far this year, probably best fight of the year.
Mm-hmm. I was deeply impressed. I mean, Adesanya coming off a big victory versus Anderson Silva, that definitely was like probably one of those trophy fights you will never forget, beating one of the OG UFC fighters. I mean...
And same with Gastelum.
Yeah,
Gastelum coming off of a victory over Michael Bisping.
Yeah. I mean, both of these
Actually,
two...
I think after Bisping, he beat Jacare, if I'm not wrong. So, victory over the recently dethroned champion, then a victory over a guy named like Jacare, always at the top, and then coming in and...
Both coming in with a lot of momentum, and I remember watching, you know, the pre-match, you know, promo, and Gastelum virtually saying, "I'm trying to stop this hype train." Well, you were stopped. But it was a good fight. It went the distance, and I think, you know, it was always probably like maybe one punch away at any of the early rounds from being over. But
I definitely agree, and I think that I think Gastelum didn't. I don't think Gastelum's stock falls with this fight.
No, he was a tough son of a bitch.
First off, as tough as they make a person.
Yeah.
And also, I think I really do think, with a little bit of adjustment to his game plan,
he could have won.
He could have very easily won. I think there was one point in the fight where I thought he could have finished, and instead of trying to keep Adesanya standing and land another big shot or two to finish the fight, he went for a takedown.
Yeah.
And I think that was a huge mistake, because going for the takedown gave Adesanya the space he needed without taking shots to clear his head and get back in the game.
Yep.
There was multiple points in the fight where Gastelum had Adesanya on shaky legs.
Yeah. Like a few times he hit that cage, and I was like, oh, shit.
Gastelum has huge power. We've seen him put out Michael Bisping. We saw him put out Tim Kennedy. We've seen him knock out tons of incredibly durable, incredibly tough guys. But Adesanya was able to take it, get his head back in the game, refocus, and adjust his approach enough to accommodate for the mistakes he had just made and gotten caught off guard.
Yep.
And so, but in the end, what ended up happening was Adesanya, just the range that he has and the sneaky and varied and dynamic striking game that he has, was just enough to keep Gastelum a little further away and on the end of the punches. And Adesanya just better timing and, like I said, longer range, was able to take over at the end of the fight. And
I think he he kept enough in the tank for that last round where it was just like it was done. And even watching at that last round, that match could have been stopped probably about twice, and it was like, why is this still going on?
Yeah, and like we said at the beginning, is just a testament to how incredibly durable and incredibly tough Kelvin Gastelum is. Yeah. And this is a dude that I think should be fighting at welterweight. Mm-hmm. This is a kid that was at welterweight for a long time and was forced to go up to middleweight because he kept missing weight at welterweight. He goes up to middleweight and just starts beating huge name dudes, and so he just stayed. It's easy for him. He probably doesn't have to cover or watch his diet very much. Yep. Doesn't he holds a little extra weight. He's probably the only dude in the division that doesn't have a six-pack, but he's been doing well, and it's because of the fact that he's so fast, able to get in and out so well, and he does have power. Yeah. Even at middleweight, he does have enough power to make guys at that weight class second guess. So what I would like to see is Gastelum just have the discipline to make the weight at 170, because he could. I think he very easily could. He's very small for the middleweight division, and he does carry on a little bit of extra weight, and he doesn't have to cut that much to make middleweight, if at all. So if he was just a little more disciplined, goes back down to welterweight,
he would wreck shit.
Takes that game. I think he would keep his power, take that same style, keep his quickness, go back down to a weight class where he's fighting dudes his size. I think he'd be right up there in the title talk, which is saying something in that crazy division. Yeah. Like that's like the coolest thing is like everywhere from like bantamweight all the way up to like middleweight is just a shark tank. Like middleweight is full of crazy top contenders that Gastelum has been doing well against. He goes back down to welterweight. No more easy of a path to get to the title than it is at middleweight. You're talking about guys like Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, the current champion, Tyron Woodley, Robbie Lawler, Ben Askren. Like it's just he does not have easy options anyway.
No, not at all.
But he's been doing so well against guys like Jacare Souza and Israel Adesanya and Tim Kennedy and Michael Bisping that he can hang at the top of that welterweight division. So why not go down and fight guys your size that aren't going to be able to keep you as far away like Adesanya was. Yeah, especially if you keep that power.
I think that was the thing you're watching, that length. Because I remember back in the day when I used to wrestle, like, I would hate wrestling tall guys because you can't get in there. Like, it's impossible to get around because their hands are just right there. Yep. Like, get the fuck away from me. But, you know, and it's like, for him, it would have been easy just to drop weight. I don't understand. I hope in the future maybe it'll be clicking in his mind. It's like, well, maybe if I just drop the weight and keep it off, here we go. I would not be surprised if he was in the title picture. Like I said, what I saw Saturday night, a lot of respect.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Hands down. Like, again, like you said, I agree. One of the best fights I've seen in a very long time.
Yes.
Wow. Really great fight. And again, you know, I love Israel Adesanya. I've been following him for, a good time now. And it was good to see him win, but again, in the back of my mind, I'm going, dude, if he hadn't gone for that takedown, it would have been it could have been, maybe.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Like I said in the preview video, is Gastelum has the kind of perfect style to deal with guys that have a longer reach, with the fact that he's able to get in and out really quickly. He's real sneaky with his punches. He has a more centered stance, so he's not constantly leaning over that front foot and catching punches where he can't take them. He can lean back and still jump in really quickly. And he dealt with it really well and was able to land some huge shots. So any given night, either of these guys could win. Adesanya won this one and had him figured out by the end of the 5 rounds. Give him a rematch and give Kelvin Gastelum some time to adjust. He very well could come back and win this fight in the first round. You never know. But as we said, I'd like to see him go back down to welterweight.
Yeah, I think it'd be a better move for him.
Congrats to Adesanya, new interim champ. Looking forward to Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker.
Hell yeah.
We got Adesanya from New Zealand. Robert Whittaker, born in New Zealand, doesn't really claim New Zealand, but he's an Aussie. I bet they do that in a stadium in Australia somewhere and have a huge fight down there.
Insane.
How cool would that be?
So that'd be insane.
It's going to be a fun fight.
That's a fight I can't wait to see. But on to the main event, the interim lightweight title fight, Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier.
Yes. These fights were both so good that they both got Fight of the Night honors.
Yeah.
which doesn't happen. It doesn't happen very often because it's a cash reward. You know, the UFC doesn't often like to hand out an extra $100,000.
Just all willy-nilly.
But since both of the co-main and the main event were so good, they both, all 4 fighters got an extra $50,000 just because of how good the fights were. Yeah. So we had Dustin Poirier take the win.
Yeah.
A decision. And it was a hell of a fight.
It was. It was very, like, I remember watching the early parts. I'm like, it was very fast. Like, holy shit. Like,
yeah, there was a lot of strikes thrown.
A lot of strikes. It was just like, you know what, screw it. We're throwing everything in the kitchen sink. Let's go.
Yeah. And it was just typical for a Holloway fight, right? Holloway throws an insane amount of punches during his fights. That's his game, is he just overwhelms people. He doesn't have giant power. He throws a lot of really quick shots. He's just trying to touch you, keep you off balance, keep you confused, and he just does that so much that eventually he breaks people. Yeah. Occasionally actually physically breaking them, like we saw with Brian Ortega. The doctor stopped the fight in between rounds because Brian Ortega's face was so broken. And then he goes up and fights Dustin Poirier in a rematch. They both used to fight at featherweight. Poirier's been a lightweight for a little while, and Holloway was going up to challenge for the interim title, Holloway's first fight at this weight class. And I think the biggest factor that we saw was the size. Yeah. The size and power that Poirier had. You could see how much more of an impact Poirier's punches had than Holloway's. It was a very, very distinct difference. Yeah. And I think that was the story of the fight. The things that surprised me the most were Poirier's gas tank. I did not think he was going to be able to keep up the pace with how heavy all of his shots were and how hard he was throwing. I didn't think he was going to be able to keep up that pace for the entire 5 rounds. Yeah. And we know Holloway can go 5 rounds at any pace. So I thought that we were going to see Poirier start to fade and Holloway start to take over. And we did see Holloway have some success at some points in the fight. There was a couple points where he had definitely taken control, was learning a ton of shots, landing big flurries, looked like he could have got the finish. But Poirier's as tough as they come. And yep. It was, like I said, the Poirier's gas tank lasting that long, and Holloway just being the toughest person they've ever created in the history of the universe. Just, we saw him wobbled 8 different times in this fight. There was 1 round where 4 different times we saw Holloway just caught with a punch and completely thrown off. And then Holloway, the badass that he is, didn't back up, didn't run away, didn't go for a takedown. He literally would catch his balance, stand there, put his fist back up, and walk towards Poirier like this, shaking his head. Like a goddamn lunatic. And that's what makes Holloway so good. That's what made this fight so good. It's just 2 dudes that just kept moving forward, kept throwing as many shots as they could, kept landing as big a shots as they could. I think Holloway landed more, but the story of the fight was how much stronger Poirier was and how much bigger his shots were and more impactful.
100%.
Every shot that Poirier landed had a noticeable effect on Holloway. And at the end of the fight, Holloway was all sorts of torn up. And so I think the big thing that we learned from this fight was either Holloway needs to fully commit to going up the weight class and put on some more weight, not have to worry about going back down to 145. If he does that, he could weightlift more, put on some more muscle. He's a pretty slender dude, and actually that's where a lot of the power comes from. You look at Holloway versus Poirier, and the difference in the breadth of their shoulders is pretty significant. And when you think about just how you get impact on a punch, is just the longer the fulcrum, the more force there is at the end of it. And so Poirier having wider shoulders, he could just naturally hit harder. Yeah. So Holloway's a kind of a smaller dude for the lightweight division, and so if he is going to stay there, I would like to see him put on some more muscle and things like that to make up the difference, because that was really the difference. Is Poirier's punch was so much heavier, but his performance was phenomenal. It was the best I've seen Poirier look by far. He outstruck one of the best strikers we've seen in the lighter weight classes in quite some time. A dude who took out the consensus greatest featherweight of all time, and Jose Aldo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Holloway is pound for pound one of the best fighters out there, and Poirier was able to go out there and just outclass him.
Mm. Yeah,
it was a phenomenal fight.
Phenomenal. I think overall, just a phenomenal card,
dude.
I think again, like I said, I've watched a bit of UFC in my time. Obviously, since we started doing this on LitTube, I've been watching a lot more, and this was one of those ones that kind of remind me of when I was younger, like just that. Every match, like you were in it.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
and I can't wait to see Poirier versus Khabib.
Yep, we gotta wait. We gotta wait a little bit.
September,
but
it'll be great.
That's gonna be a hell of a fight.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So we got no preview video coming for next week. I know there's a fight night. We got Alistair Overeem fighting, which is always exciting, and the fight that I'm particularly excited for, the sister of the current women's flyweight champ, Valentina Shevchenko. Antonina Shevchenko is having her UFC debut.
Nice.
Should be exciting. She's fighting Roxanne Modafferi, who's an Ultimate Fighter winner and a phenomenal grappler. So it's a real interesting style matchup between a phenomenal kickboxer in Shevchenko versus a phenomenal grappler in Modafferi. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll probably have a catch-up video for you in a few weeks, but we'll be back in a couple weeks. More fight coverage.
Yep. Whether you're watching on thisislitTube.com or YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. We got a ton more content coming for you. As he said, we won't be back next week for any coverage of UFC. We will be focusing on the NFL draft. So stay tuned for that. Yeah. Have a good night. Take care.
There we go. I was going to say, give me something funny, guys.
Let's do what? Don't put that shit on camera.
Don't put one on camera.
What I just fucking said.
What'd you just say?
Motherfucker, I will kill you.
As long as you wear those stilettos, I like.
I'll stab you with them.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
What do you got in there?
Water.
I was hoping for something better.
That's dehydrated. Don't you have some,
so barely anything to shake a stick at.
better than nothing, eh?
Touche. Alex, you better not be recording this bullshit.
What? No.
I'm dead serious.
All serious, my fist in your face. Alright, you two gals ready?
Yeah, it's definitely recording. You want some outtakes?
These aren't the
Outtakes are tight.
These aren't the outtakes I want.